Ujian terbuka promosi doktor untuk Saudara Akhmad Hairul Umam akan segera dimulai. Dekan Fakultas Pendidikan dan Bahasa, promotor, ko-promotor, dan para penguji akan memasuki ruangan. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri. Sebelum acara ujian dimulai, Pastur Unika Atmajaya akan memimpin doa. Romo Stefanus Hari Yudanto PR, kami persilahkan.
Para ibu dan bapak, saudari-saudara yang terkasih, juga para pimpinan yang terhormat, izinkan saya sebelum kita memulai rangkaian ujian promotor sidang ini, mari kita bersatu dalam doa dan kita mohon rahmat dan berkat Tuhan. Izinkan saya berdoa menurut tata cara iman Gereja Katolik. Dalam nama Bapa dan Putra dan Roh Kudus, amin. Allah Bapa yang Maha Kasih, kami bersyukur atas berkat dan juga penyertaan-Mu pada pagi hari ini. Kami Engkau kumpulkan bersama-sama di tempat ini. Kami mohon berkat dan rahmat-Mu untuk ujian promosi Doktor Linguistik Terapan Bahasa Inggris untuk Bapak Akhmad Hairul Umam. Kami senantiasa memohon rahmat-Mu atas ketekunan dan juga apa yang beliau sudah lakukan di tempat ini, agar semua ini boleh menjadi berkat untuk banyak orang, semakin banyak dirasakan manfaatnya, terutama untuk karya pendidikan dan pelayanan yang mereka jumpai. Maka ya Tuhan, kami mohon agar Engkau senantiasa menyertai di dalam ujian sidang promotor S3 ini, juga untuk para pembimbing, penguji, dan seluruh tamu undangan yang hari ini hadir, agar senantiasa juga merasakan kasih dan berkat-Mu. Ini semua kami persembahkan ke dalam tangan-Mu dengan pengantaran Kristus Tuhan dan pengantara kami. Amin. Dalam nama Bapa dan Putra dan Roh Kudus. Amin.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, sidang ujian terbuka promosi doktor untuk Saudara Akhmad Hairul Umam akan segera dibuka oleh Ketua Sidang, Dekan Fakultas Pendidikan dan Bahasa, Dr. Luciana M.Id, kami persilahkan. Hadirin dipersilahkan untuk duduk kembali.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby officially open the public academic session for the promotion of the doctoral candidate in Applied English Linguistics, Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam. The examining board is composed of the dissertation advisor, Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, the co-advisor, Ibu Christine Manara, Ph.D. from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, and 3 other examiners, Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu, Ph.D. from Sanata Dharma University, Professor Bahren Umar Siregar, Ph.D. from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia, and Dr. Ana Marietta da Silva from Atmajaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam. Yes. As the Dean, Faculty of Education and Languages, I would like to ask you, whether you are both physically and mentally prepared to defend your dissertation.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Now I'm going to read Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam brief biodata. Mr. Umam, at this moment, is in the process of completing his study as a doctoral candidate in applied linguistics at Marietta University of Indonesia. And Mr. Umam has got some professional employment starting from 2013 until present. Mr. Umam is working as a lecturer at Tanri Abeng University. And also, Mr. Umam has got some achievement like Research Grant Award recipient for novice lecturer research from the Ministry of Education, Research and Technology. Also Research Grant Award recipient for doctoral dissertation research from the Ministry of Education, Research and Technology. He has been prolific in having several publications. The first one is like Translingual Practice in Remote EFL Tertiary Education, How Multilingual Speakers Create Translanguaging Spaces, published in Indonesian Journal of Applied Linguistics. Also, working on students' voices on translingual practices within the EFL classroom, Anglo-Saxon Journal, to mention a few of his publications. Mr. Umam also has got some published book chapters like Dasar-Dasar Penguasaan Bahasa Inggris, Kebutuhan Dasar dalam Situasi Kontekstual, Padang, Get Press Indonesia, 2023. Also Daily English Conversation, Asking for and Giving Advice, also from Padang, Get Press Indonesia, 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, the exam will now start and will last for an hour. I would like to begin by asking Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam to present a summary of his findings entitled Translingual Practice in Tertiary Level of EFL Remote Learning Interactions, a case study during the COVID-19 pandemic in the Indonesian context. Time is yours, Mr. Umam.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Selamat pagi, good morning. The Honorable the Dean, Faculty of Education and Languages, Ibu Dr. Luciana M.Ed, my promotor and co-promotor, Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto M.Hum and Ibu Christine Manara Ph.D, respected examiners, Professor Bahren Umar Siregar Ph.D, who participate remotely from Medan, Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu Ph.D, and Dr. Marietta Silva M.Hum. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my research study on this stage. The title of my research is Translingual Practice in Tertiary Level of EFL Remote Learning Interaction with the case study during the COVID-19 pandemic in the Indonesian context. Here is the overview of my presentation: study background, literature review, previous research studies, methodology, research procedure, finding, discussion, and conclusion. Study background. Just to review and remind that the centrality issue of my research study was situated in disruption era, especially in education, where people, including teachers and students, were not allowed to meet and interact in face-to-face interaction. They communicated through internet, smartphone, and other gadgets to protect themselves from the COVID-19. Teaching learning activities were conducted remotely using digital learning platforms like Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, and Google Classroom. This kind of digital learning platform not only provide teachers and students access to the knowledge such as teaching material, but also serve as contact zone. Contact zone, according to Pratt, refers to social space that cultures meet and interact and gravel each other. So in the context of EFL, we see translinguaging and also digital learning platform like Zoom, Skype, and others not only provide access to knowledge, but also serve as contact zone and create a space for negotiation and interaction that teachers and students engage in translingual practice. as mentioned by TAC in 2018, most people in online environment have resources in more than one language. Even they are far from mastering more than one language. So I frame the interaction within virtual classroom for the teachers and students with the notion of translingual practice proposed by Suresh Chanagaraja that form a new paradigm shift in language education, at least with the two considerations. First, the FL participant, teachers and students are multilingual and multicultural who are able to shuttle different languages. And the second, the interplay or the integration between language and technology that enable them to align with themselves beyond their language competence. Literature. I read a number of academic papers and investigated the notion of translinguaging or translingual practice from the time the first appeared and then how this notion developed, broadened, and becoming the new concept of practical language from 1994 up to 2022. So to make it easy, I make a roadmap as a guideline of my research study. In the literature, I see translinguaging and translingual practice are often used interchangeable. So especially when we address how speakers use languages and multimodality. For example, Garcia, known as sociolinguist and a leading scholar in translinguaging, define translinguaging is using languages as unitary linguistic system for meaning making. From this perspective, language users do not have separate label, and competent draws from the linguistic repertoire. From this perspective as well, speakers are no longer use L1, L2 or additional language to communicate, but they select features appropriately somewhere from the head. While translingual practice as proposed by Suresh Chanagaraja intended as an alternative term of translinguaging that emphasizes a lot on practice instead of a cognitive aspect. This notion translingual practice as proposed by Suresh Chanagaraja, also known as leading scholars in translinguaging, emphasize that translingual practice characterized with the two important concepts in communication. First, communication transcends individual language. Language is always in contact, contributing and supporting each other. Second, communication transcends words that involve multiple semiotic resources that work together. And from this perspective, language is only considered one among of many multi-semiotic resources. Previous research studies. Research studies using translingual perspective have been written by Indonesian scholars as well as from overseas, and all the work generate insight how language and communication work together. To make it short, I provide example from previous research studies from 2015 until 2020. For example, Sugiharto, my promoter in 2015 wrote translanguaging in the context of writing, and he provided additional evidence how translanguaging also happen in morphological and syntactical level. Rivera and Mazak also investigated translanguaging in a EFL classroom by examining the views or the attitude of the student, and they found that students have positive and neutral outlook toward how translanguaging treated as a strategy in the EFL classroom. Among of this work, and also that written by scholars, with the exceptional from the work from Al-Bawardi in 2018, who investigated digital practice within WhatsApp group for female students in Saudi Arabia, and found how translinguaging within WhatsApp group generated new vocabularies in Arabic digitally mediated in communication, as well as Thai and Lit 2021 investigated how ME teachers found resources, semiotic resources and spatial resources through iPad when they teach English in mathematics class. So all this work written by scholars, with the exception of Alberwerdi and Tai and Lee, were situated in offline setting. So we need to find or extend further finding on online set. From this gap, we see that studies within virtual classroom using translingual practice have received little attention, especially how translingual practice produced in online site. So from this gap, I composed 3 research questions as the guideline of my current study. First, what negotiation strategies did the FL apply in online classroom? Second, toward extent the ramification of negotiation strategies emerge within a virtual classroom. And the last one, how translingual practices produce in relation to the way how virtual classroom was managed using digital learning platform. Methodology. This is part of qualitative research with a case study using ethnographic method from CONIZ, which is considered as the most fitting approach in collecting data remotely and also considered as the most relevant during the pandemic era. The research conducted took in one of the private university in South Jakarta by involving 3 instructors and 47 students. Data collection comes from observation, questionnaire, and interview. This is the research procedure. I followed the interactive model from Mile and Haberman, while the data collection coming from observation toward teaching learning activities conducted remotely, giving the survey and interviewing to the teachers and selected participants, especially from the student. Data reduction, through eliminating the data, unnecessary data based on the research framework, and then data analysis, organizing the data, identifying and coding, displaying the data, selecting certain data as a case study, and then interpreting data, explaining through theoretical framework that I read and I use in this study, and the last one, drafting the research report. Finding, research question 1. In responding to the research question 1, I found translingual space met by the FL participant through the numbers of negotiation strategies, such as using language alternation and the flexibility of language in use in the FL classroom. English served as the subject of learning or learning instruction, while Indonesian and others or vernacular languages happen naturally in different part of teaching learning activities, such as greeting, explaining the subject, giving the command, and closing the class. I also identified macro strategies and micro strategies as proposed by Suresh Chanagaraja and Widianto to identify and analyze the talk or tag made by translingual speakers. They are invoicing. Invoicing, to speak mean to invoice. This is language production, highly lead to language production, which is enacted into code switching, code mixing, and pronunciation. Second, recontextualization, framing the talk or frame for appropriate negotiation strategies enacted into contextualization cues and managing the topic. The third, interactional, constructing meaning using reciprocal between interlocutor and finding collaborative strategies, which is enacted into clarification and recast. And the fourth is contextualization, dealing with the spatio-temporal of language production processes, enacted into leveling and simplification. This is the example how the FL participant use invoicing. We see here, as I mentioned, translingual practice happen in the part of teaching learning activities. Teachers in this context shuttle from different languages, English, Arabic, and Indonesian, and also students also did code mixing, code switching, and pronunciation. Mixing and code mixing is a new phenomena in spoken and written related to multilingualism or bilingualism that involve multiple languages, while pronunciation here using L1 or L2 and adjusting to the L2 phonology. For example, in this case, I got the data from the interaction from international students from Afghanistan by saying nasi goreng instead of fried rice, or gado-gado instead saying mixed vegetable with the peanut sauce. So they prefer to address the local food with the original name. So in this context, translinguaging or translingual practice, as Garcia mentioned, not utilized to differentiate between two languages, but used to mediate each other to support and to collaborate. This is the example of recontextualization strategies using the clue and giving the indication to have the student easy to understand. This can be verbal, non-verbal. For example, the teacher mentioned you have to look closely and think twice, but satu anak by saying in Indonesian, and also show one symbol in front of his camera. Okay, this is the example of interactional strategies enacted into confirmation and recast. So when interlocutor negotiate, they will follow one of the following activities. For example, to anticipate potential communication breakdown, and also identify the communication better, and then the last one, fix them. So while formulating is recast, reformulating all or part of the incorrect word or phrase to show the correct form without explicitly identifying the error. For example, I go back home, but for the past 10 use I went back home. This is the excerpt that I took from observation and the recording that I got in EFL remote learning instruction. This is the example of contextualization using more familiar word or refreshing the ideas into simpler form. For example, OMG stand for oh my God. So, and also using the filler like where, anywhere, let's say, or something like that, to give the brain a time to think and to select appropriate expression. In responding to the second question about toward extent the ramification of negotiation strategy emerge within virtual classroom, this ramification emerged naturally, and this can be seen through how the FL participant mobilize different resources like verbal, non-verbal, multimodality, and other resources. So the complexity becoming a main of the characteristic of EFL instruction within a virtual classroom. So this not only characterized with the interplay between languages, but also communication with the technology or digital features. I also explore a lot about the views from the teachers about translingual practices within feature classroom from their perspective. So I found here two teachers, Mr. Asper and Ms. Chitra, tend to be friendly, accommodate, and allow their student to communicate Indonesian or other languages that they think will support the development of targeted language. Only one teacher, Mr. Jimmy, tend to be faithful toward targeted language by teaching English inclusively, by assuming through his decision student will have the opportunity to acquire language effectively. And I also explored student voices. From their perspective, I found that most of them have positive outlook toward translanguaging, especially the language alternation made by DFL teachers in their classroom. Characteristic of DFL interaction within classroom extremely different from offline, so the mobility of resources and that meet by the FL participant very varied. For example, we can see the language integration, English, Indonesian, and also vernacular languages, the fluid language that they use, and also utilization of diverse resources, especially like a student or presenter who are going to present, they often use more than devices, and also multimodal interaction. So I got here based on the survey, gesture and digital features are the most instrument that meet or used or employed by the FL participant to support the interaction within virtual classroom. From this data, in line with what Chanagaraja mentioned, communication transcends individual language, and communication also transcends words that involve diverse semiotic resources. This is the example of how teachers views share their opinion. For example, translingual practice a strategy. So I got a common strategies for them, why they use the flexibility of language in EFL classroom. For example, to organize classroom management, to help student understanding, and to check student comprehension. For example, the quotation from Mr. Jimmy about his policy in virtual classroom. I try to encourage them to maximize the English practice as much as possible. I minimize as language other than English in explaining and responding to student questions. So Mr. Jimmy, for me, through my observation as well, he is very faithful toward target language and try to discourage his student not to use English. Believe in language learning. This is the quotation from other teachers. While student voices toward translingual practices within virtual classroom also vary, but in general they have a positive outlook. For example, when I ask them toward the intensity of translingual practice, most of them say 63.8% not too often, meaning English dominant. And I also see that the card matching also happen naturally. English with the Indonesian and Indonesian with the English in different degrees, but most of them English with Indonesian is the majority compared to Indonesian with English. In responding to the third question, how translingual practice is produced in relation to the way a virtual classroom was managed using digital learning platform, this can be answered through multimodal learning. What does mean by multimodal learning? This is the integration or interaction of various modes of communication that FL participants engage in different parts of teaching learning activities. Multimodality also recognize that communication not only meet through one language, but through from many elements, for example, multimodality and other resources. I also display as the example here how DFL participant, especially the teacher, try to use resources and other negotiation strategies creatively, for example, using the code smithing to enrich student linguistic repertoire, using semantic resources to engage student participants, and also using multimodality, in this case, a mobile phone, to direct student attention. Here is the example how DFL teacher orchestrating student linguistic repertoire to support student understanding by asking and keep asking one of her students to translate certain term, certain word like a mail order and leisurely shopping. So in this case, we affirm that language is not an autonomous set of rule, structure, or discrete skill to be acquired, but as a tool for negotiating and constructing meaning between individual and product of social relationship. So we see here that languages that happen, that emerge naturally within virtual classroom, treated as collaboration instead of restricted to use only one language. This is the exact second example how DFL teachers in this context use semiotic resources to engage student participation. So from this context, okay, can I follow? Okay. In this context, teachers try to engage his student using semiotic resources by showing his finger to stimulate his student to participate in the interaction. Then this strategy lead to the dynamic interaction that involve not only verbal but also semiotic and other resources that are available for them. So this is in line with the thesis from Suresh Canagaraja. Language is only one semiotic resource among many, and all the semiotic resources that are available to them work together and create a meaning. And this is the third example how teachers use multimodality in this context using mobile pen by circling certain picture to direct student attention. Again here, evident that communication always been multimodal. Discussion. Looking back to the example, we see here virtual interaction that happen in offline EFL interaction conducted remotely, very dynamic, very complex, and unpredictable manner. So from this finding, we see that we have a new understanding toward the language and communication as said by Lewe by proposing translinguaging as practical theory of language. Language is always multimodality, multi-sensory, and multi-resources that human use for thinking and communicating the thought. And although they never heard and they never learned the idea of translinguaging, especially for the teachers, translingual practice already reflected in their classroom. And here also we know that the interaction within virtual classroom not only need a knowledge of language but also strategies and creativity to mobilize resources. Okay. Conclusion. Translingual practice within virtual classroom exhibited key characteristics like the interplay language and other languages, and also with the digital features. The EFL interaction within virtual classroom made through different mode of communication. EFL participants engage in different modes of communication, for example, in written, spoken, and so on. And through pandemic and also with the development of technology, EFL, especially language education, also adapted with this development. So now we are familiar with the type of language learning in synchronous and asynchronous. The implication of this research study: first, we need to value student linguistic repertoire that bring into the classroom. Second, we need to engage language learner how to create balanced interaction, especially between fluent speakers and early language learners. And the third, we need to move away, shifting from monolingual to translingual. And the last one is the need to upskilling digital literacy. Limitation. Within virtual classroom, the number of the participants and the platform of digital learning that we use, very ordinary platform. As a recommendation for the future research, do the same topic with the bigger and longer participant, developing research topic, for example, about the challenges, effectiveness, and also examining TP or translingual practice from different views, for example, policymakers, students, and teachers. This is the example of the finding that published in IJAL Q2. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the question and answer, we would like to sincerely apologize to Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu because we mentioned the institution, the wrong institution. So Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu, Ph.D. is from Satya Wacana Christian University. So once again, please accept our apology, Professor Joseph.
Thank you.
Okay, we go on with the process. Ladies and gentlemen, each of the 5 examiners will ask questions, and we will start from Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu as our external examiner to pose the first questions. Time is yours, Professor Joseph.
Thank you, Bu Dekan, Bu Luciana, and thank you for being here, supporting Pak Umam. And I have to really appreciate Pak Umam for your perseverance until you reach this point.
Thank
and
you, Prof.
It's time for celebration, but yeah, I know that in PhD dissertation, I remember my former dissertation chair said that when you are defending your dissertation, it's like you are guilty until you are found innocent. When it comes to publishing your work, like what you published in IJAL, you are innocent until you are found guilty and you have to revise, and luckily your work was published, and congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to make it better, I think the dissertation needs some polishing. I have to really appreciate that your work has been so much substantially polished in terms of language and the content, but there are a couple of things, there is still room for improvement that we can work on together. And I'd like to divide the questions into 3 big parts. The first one on a little bit on methodology, and the second one on the research findings, the analysis of your research findings, and the third one, what's next? And maybe that's something that we can clarify, because it's your academic journey doesn't stop here. It will continue after you are you pass this stage. And this is just the beginning, even though this is the end of your study, but this is just the beginning. Your doctoral degree is your passport for further research. The first one, I need a bit of more, I would like you to clarify a little bit on the methodology, especially when it comes to selecting participants for your interview. It says here, the interviewees were selected purposefully based on the gender, male and female, which is fine, and preferences of the researcher during the observation. What do you mean by preferences here? Maybe you can clarify.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Regarding to the methodology, especially in interviewing the participants from the student, right? So first I interviewed all the teachers, because only 3, and because too many, especially the participant from the student, I select from each class. There are 3 classes, so I select 3 among of these classes, and of course I also carry the genders. And from my finding and also interviewing with them, not all available and ready to to be interviewed. So I just followed based on their preference and a willingness to collaborate, to share their thought, their feeling during their study within virtual classroom. So that's why I also display the genders and also not only female but also male on my research study.
Okay, thank you. So you please flesh out the details later in the revision. Yeah, how you select. It's not simply about the preference, but what specific criteria did you have in mind when selecting the participants? Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. The next one on research findings. Well, yeah, that's where the arguments go. I think people may agree or disagree with your argument, but I think when it comes to giving examples for your analysis, be careful with the definition and how you came up with the examples. Like when you mentioned recast, well, I cannot remember off the top of my head anything, many details about that, but for example, recast.
Yes.
Recast. From what I remember, I might be wrong. He go to school. For example, the student says, he go to school. I'm making up the example. He go to school. The teacher will say, he go to school?
Yes.
Yeah. Because your definition says it's implied, not explicit corrective feedback. If that's the definition, then supposedly not he went to school, even though maybe recast may also include both explicit and implicit corrective feedback. So my point here is that maybe you need to adjust a little bit between the definition and the examples.
Yes.
To accommodate both or two possible examples of recast. And some I'm still trying to find something on let it pass. Later, okay, hang on, where is it? Let it pass is one of the micro strategies. Because I think when you mention let it pass, that's a good example. But then I also found it kind of confused because when you discuss leveling,
yes.
Yeah, I think your example can also be under let it pass. Yeah, I don't know.
Almost similar.
Almost
Myself
similar.
as well. I just
Yeah.
follow like the structure from
Yeah.
Widianto who tried to enact it, the big macro strategy.
Yeah, my comment here and more details on the comments. I think I have shared this with Bu Christine, and you can have a look. I do not have much time to discuss all details. I'm just discussing the major things that happen to be important. So I think you need to work a little bit on that. Yeah, like if the two examples can be under the same subheading, won't you just lump similar things together? Or maybe you say that, well, people have different definitions and both can be part, it depends on how, the same examples can be under two criteria, but from a different perspective. So you need to highlight how they're different. Otherwise, similar things should be lumped together.
Yeah.
Okay. And any comments on that?
Yeah, thank you for the detailed and critical input. That's why Suresh Chanagaraja intended translingual practice as the umbrella of any emerging term under bilingual and multilingual studies, including the recast and so on. So, little bit confusing when we go in detail. So, but when I'm trying to figure out the picture understanding how it works and how it collaborates, and then I slowly understand, okay, this is what I got from Suresh Chanagaraja by advocating translingual practice as the umbrella that covering all a term that proposed by earlier scholars.
Okay. And the last set of questions, what's next? And I think you mentioned already there. And don't stop here. I hope that you will continue on your journey on translingual practices or anything related to your study here. One of the first things, and if you have the answer, please answer. If you don't worry, it may be your food for thought. It is interesting that as a person not specifically majoring in English language teaching for his master's, I don't know whether Pak Jimmy, the pseudonym here, is here. Pak Jimmy was monolingual in his approach to teaching his class, even though, yes, he completed his bachelor's degree in English language education.
Yeah.
But interestingly, he was the only one who doesn't have a master's degree in English language teaching. It seems to me that there is this is my hypothesis,
Yeah.
maybe if you're updated with the ELT or applied linguistics literature, you might also, your pedagogical approach to teaching in a classroom might be also influenced by your coursework, participation in coursework. So maybe if you have something to say about this, but if no, then this can be one of your further research questions.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Outside the class, Mr. Jimmy is multilingual. He can speak Madurese a little bit, Javanese, English as well. So inside of the virtual class, he tried to use monolingual approach, but by treating and giving a lot exposure English toward his student. So from my interpretation and also interviewing with him, he is tend to be faithful toward the target language. For example, by assuming through his policy, giving a lot exposure to his student, enable them, for the student, to acquire the target language. For the coming agenda, the next step, I talk and I'm very grateful with my promoter, so I will focus and follow up this research to be published. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Umam. The next question still about what's next, yeah? If Jakarta, well, I know you mentioned the difference, you discussed the difference between remote learning and online learning, but another usage of remote is not necessarily restricted to online. Remote here in the sense that remote areas, in the sense like a remote area. If Jakarta is quote unquote remote, what about those in Papua?
Yeah.
For example, I'm not criticizing your study. I'm just genuinely asking this. So maybe you or other people, including the current audience of this respectable event, will address this. Any plan for you to follow up the current study based on that? Based on what I have just shared?
Yes, I will try. So I am in the same opinion with you, Prof. People quite confused with the term online, remote learning, and others. So, but basically to distinguish remote and online is about the schedule. So in remote learning, just moving the content from online to, from offline to virtual or online virtual classroom. While online learning is a bit of freedom. No schedule like every week, for example, compared to remote learning. So basically the remote learning just moving the content, moving the teaching activities from offline to online. This is what I heard from my reading.
Okay, great. Yeah, from online to offline, and especially in remote areas, it would be challenging as well.
Yes, very, very, because they need also to update how they use and employ like digital features. Most of them in remote area cannot afford how to, with the internet, with the smartphone and the other gadgets that support toward the teaching learning activities conducted remotely. So it will be very tough for them compared to the people in Jakarta.
Okay. My very last comment, and you might also respond to this, and this is addressed to anyone interested in translingual practices and translanguaging. My guess is that what is possibly considered translingual today can be considered monolingual over time. After all, English comes from different bits of pieces like Germanic, Latin, and different words. The word stunting, for example, was rarely or maybe even never used as part of Bahasa Indonesia. Today, many politicians or state policy makers popularize the word stunting. For example, insya Allah yang kita berpartisipasi mencegah stunting. There is Arabic, Melayu, Malay, and English. And it's also already part of Bahasa Indonesia anyway. Why not kurang gizi and stunting? I'd like to see how you and we can also address this question to politicians, genuinely asking why on earth are you using stunting instead of kurang gizi? Kurang gizi sounds too direct. Is it part of euphemism? Yeah. Okay.
This is the reality of the people in the current era. Very hard to find people who only speak one language, right? So, translinguaging or translingual practices proposed by Suresh Canagaraja and also Garcia is the only way for bilingual or multilingual to express their thought, to communicate with others. And I found here translingual practice or translinguaging is the best suitable way to approach and to be used in language education. Borrowing the statement from Garcia, if we are not taking translinguaging into our teaching, we are not doing injustice. We are not thinking justice and equal for the student, especially toward minority language of the student who are in our classroom, something like that. And we only evaluate less than half of the repertoire, not all. That's why we need to advocate, we need to propose translinguaging as the ideal approach in this current era.
Okay, thank you, Pak Umam. So back to you, Bu Luciana.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Ernest Mambu. Would Professor Bahren Umar Siregar, Ph.D., the second examiner, now pose your questions? Professor Bahren, connected already? Using this, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's clear, Professor Bahren.
Umar, greetings from Medan.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, how do you find, how do you feel now?
A bit nervous. Yeah, this frankly feeling.
I don't like to say the final stage, or the end of the stage, right? But anyway, you are now here defending your final draft presentation. And I also agree with Professor Joseph about the rooms for improvement for your final dissertation. For that, I would like to start with my comment on the second chapter, chapter 2. The title is Literature Review and Theoretical Framework. It's okay, I found that review of various literatures. Right? But I didn't find the theoretical framework, a specific subchapter on theoretical framework. I heard you citing Garcia and so on. In methodology, you cited someone else. I think their work might be part of your
Yes, I will accommodate your feedback, Prof, to add theoretical framework, especially from main argument that I quote a lot, for example, Chanagarajas, Garcia, Lewe, and others.
Okay. As I said earlier, there is always, I think, a room for improvement, right? Now, the next one is about the findings. You have made interesting claims here and there in chapter 4, particularly section 4.2. It's about research question 2. I also found many claims in the summary, especially the summary of the ramification of negotiation strategies in EFL, right?
Yes.
It's concerned with your second research question. The problem is, like, in chapters 1, in 4.1, discussing the findings for the first research question, you provide a section called discussion. But unfortunately, for the findings in response to the second research question, you didn't give anything discussion there. In the findings related to the third research question, it's okay. You got the summary of this, the summary and the discussion there. Discussion without any specific organization about findings and discussion, it is difficult for me if which part of your presentation in 4.2 is about findings and which part is about the discussion, right? Because it's not easy to identify these two things unless you give us referential supports for any claims you make there. Unfortunately, in that section, 4.2, I didn't find any referential support. You make claims
I'm so happy that you do just giving
My connection.
especially in responding to the second question about ramification of negotiation strategies that emerge spontaneously within virtual classroom. Same as the structure from first question and the third. Is it my voice audible?
Very good. Yeah, maybe you can repeat again. I lost the beginning of the beginning part of your response.
Yeah, I do appreciate for your critical input to organize the structure how I present my funding, especially in responding to the second question about ramification of negotiation strategies that emerge within future classroom, like the structure that I presented in the first question and the third. I will do it.
I wish you good luck, Umar. That's all from me, Bu Lucy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Bahren Umar Siregar, Ph.D. I now invite the third examiner, Dr. Ana Marietta da Silva, to ask questions. Time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Lucy. Pak Umam, congratulations for
Thank you.
all the hard work that you have put to
Yes.
reach this stage. I've always interested at research methods, Pak Umam. So if you could have a very just brief reflection upon the research design procedure of your study. I would like to know if you can reflect upon this research design procedure. I have two questions. The first is concerning the observation.
Yes.
After you've completed your study, after you've presented the findings, analyzed the findings, if you are given time to go back to the research procedure, what would you improve from the procedure of doing observation and processing the observation data? I think if you can give us some suggestions, perhaps for your friends, for your classmates, for researchers who wish to conduct observation or classroom observation, online classroom observation,
Yeah.
especially.
So my research situated in disruption era where people including teachers and students are allowed to interact and meet physically. So if we have the same time, the same situation like a pandemic, I think using the ethnography method as proposed by CONICET, I think this is very effectively getting the data without involving and meeting directly. However, in this offline, now we move to offline, right? I think meeting directly and interviewing, also observing how the teaching learning practice happen will be much better to be taken instead of using questionnaire mediated through online or Google Form or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Pak Umam. In other words, you felt that there was some perhaps obstacles or challenges during the online
Yes,
observation?
yes, it is. So not easy to get the student to respond based on my expectation. So not easy. So of course I'm a bit lucky and have advantages because all the teachers are my colleague. So I talk to them to little bit push them to respond toward my questionnaire that I distributed to them.
Okay, thank you. The second question, the last one. If you can reflect upon the process of doing the triangulation of your data, research data from observation as your primary
Yes.
research data and then survey as well as interview, I'm sure that that is not easy, right?
Yes.
So what advice will you give to researchers or students, your colleagues who wish to do triangulation of their data?
Yeah.
I'm sure that you also found some challenges here and there, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
We need to go directly and be part of the teaching learning process. So if we want to have the valid data, we need to spend a lot of time together with them. Sometimes what they respond in writing is different from the reality. So we need to know what the natural interaction, what they thought behind of out of the classroom. Sometimes different. So that why researchers need to be very careful in collecting, analyzing, and interpreting the data. So regarding to triangulation, I think in the qualitative research, very important to make sure that whether the data is valid or not, because in my case, the challenge when I trying to assign or when I'm trying to approach a student to reconfirm, and then they feel reluctant to interact. So that is the problem. That's why we need to come and see like pretending like other students who follow or participate the teaching learning activities.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Umam.
Thank you, Ibu.
Go back to you, Dr. Lucy. Thank you, Dr. Marietta. If Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto, the dissertation advisor, would ask any questions, please do so.
Thank you, Dr. Luciana. Pak Umam, as your supervisor, congratulations. Finally, you can defend your dissertation in front of the public. I have just two general questions, Pak Umam. The first, in the dissertation, you claim that the findings of your study strengthen the notions of translanguaging as a practical theory of language. Could you elaborate this a bit to help us understand what this claim means?
Research studies using translingual perspective in different domains. For example, Rivera and Maza conducted in their classroom in Puerto Rico University, examining the attitude of students, how students think and feel regarding to translanguaging as a strategy, and they found students have a positive outlook. And this is similar with my finding here. Most of the students see that translanguaging, especially the language policy, by allowing students to speak using multiple languages are the same. So students have advantages because shy student or less competent student are able to participate fully in the teaching learning activities. Instead, restricted, for example, only English accepted to communicate or something like that. So this is the same claim with the previous studies.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, if you may summarize this in a few words, what is the contribution of your study on translingual practice to the body of knowledge, particularly related to translanguaging?
Yeah, we are in the era of digital and multilingual backgrounds, and most people are multilingual. So we think that translanguaging is the suitable and practical approach to be adopted and to be advocated in language education. So back to the notion of translanguaging, this is a natural practice that value the student linguistic repertoire that bring into the classroom. So we need to accept, we need to make languages as a tool to collaborate and to support, instead restricted only one language that used in EFL or something like that.
Thank you. No further questions, Dr. Luciana.
Thank you, Professor Sugiharto. Ibu Christine Manara, Ph.D., the co-advisor, do you have any additional questions to ask?
Yeah, thank you, Bu Lucy. Pak Umar, congratulations once more.
Thank you, Ibu.
Yeah. Well, since Prof. Bahren is not asking you any questions, so I thought I'll just take the chance, yeah?
Okay.
So my question is very simple. So the intention of doing this study is to sort of help, help teachers on practicing translingual practice. Is it?
Not examining, just observing teaching, learning, the interaction of the FL participant within virtual classroom. I observe the interaction, not what they say, but how they interact within a virtual classroom, managed using digital learning platform like Zoom or Skype and Google Classroom.
Right. Now, so because my concern would be always to those who are applying this, the teachers, because they're the one who's going to sort of guide learning in the classroom. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So what sort of guidelines can you maybe share to the teachers on how to apply such a practice?
Yes. A term translanguaging or translingual practice is very new term in applied linguistics. Personally appeared in 1994 from William using different languages, L1, L2 or something like that in bilingual education. So what we need to advocate and introduce for the teachers, first we need to disseminate this idea first through publication or through training toward the promising ideas that can be applied in the FL. For example, we need to enlighten them that translanguaging is very new and very suitable because we need to find realistic and most relevant approach to teach bilingual students. So, and also we need to work together with the policymaker. For example, in the context of the school, the headmaster also know and to support, for example, giving or shifting the curriculum that accommodate the notion of translanguaging, and also regarding with the assessment assessment, how the teacher assess their student or something like that. So we need to collaborate, student, policymakers, and also the teachers as the role model in the classroom, in the class.
Yeah, I'm just because in my mind, maybe that would be your could be your next project. Like, if you have to advocate such a practice, how would you introduce this to the practitioners, which are the teachers? Because they will be the one who's going to be the agent of learning for the students. Maybe something to think about for your next project.
First, for myself, I applied this notion in my teaching, and also I encourage my colleague to try to use this approach by accommodating, for example, as you can see, two of them friendly accommodate with the notion of translinguaging, although they never heard before about the notion of translinguaging. So we need time and process how we enlighten them and accept with this promising idea in EFL.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Umam. Best of luck with
Thank
your
you,
future
Ibu.
plan. Yeah.
Thank
That's
you,
all
Ibu.
from Ibu Lucy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Manara. Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam, the examination is now over. This open academic session to examine our doctoral candidate is finished. Permit us now to have a short intermission to assess the examination results of Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam.
Hadirin yang terhormat, para penguji, promotor, ko-promotor, dan ketua sidang akan meninggalkan ruangan selama 20 menit. Hadirin kami mohon berdiri kembali.
Hadirin dimohon untuk duduk kembali.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, para penguji, promotor, ko-promotor, dan ketua sidang kembali ke ruang sidang promosi. Hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri. Hadirin dimohon untuk duduk kembali. Promovendus Saudara Akhmad Hairul Umam, kami persilakan maju untuk menghadap dekan.
Ladies and gentlemen, having heard the examination board's assessment deliberation of your ratings in your public defense, the total credits earned during your study, and the duration of your doctoral studies at this university, I hereby announce that you, Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam, have passed the examination very satisfactorily. I now invite Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto, the dissertation advisor, to confer the doctor's degree on Mr. Akhmad Hairul Umam and thereupon deliver his laudatory address.
With the power invested in me as your dissertation advisor, I hereby pronounce you Doctor of Linguistics with all the rights and honors pertaining thereto according to the extant academic traditions. In evidence of your promotion, I present you with the doctor's diploma which you have obtained with great diligence. I wish you great success in your future career.
Boleh berdiri berhadapan dengan Prof. Iya, ke samping situ.
I now want to make a few personal observations about your work so far. Dr. Akhmad Umam, with a strong commitment and painstaking efforts in completing your dissertation research, you can finally earn the degree of Doctor in Linguistics. Dr. Christine Manara, my fellow promoter, and I, your promoter, have the privilege today to congratulate you with the great academic achievement. Congratulations on your accomplishments as the 51st doctor graduated from the Doctoral program in Applied English Linguistics at Majaya Catholic University of Indonesia. Conducting research on translingual practice in EFL remote learning interaction is not an easy feat, as you need to struggle with and to grasp the emerging and novel concepts related to the topic. But your passion and interest about the topic has enabled you to persevere in completing the research. Needless to say, your research has helped thrown an important light into the complexities of translingual practice in a multilingual country like Indonesia. In a nutshell, your research has expanded and enriched the perspectives and insights deriving from the previous studies on the similar topic. Now that you have accomplished and defended your dissertation, Dr. Manara and your co-promoter and I hope that the academic contributions you have made will be of significance to policymakers, curriculum designers, language teachers, students, and the societies at large. We also hope that you can continue the research traditions you experienced during your study in the doctoral program for the sake of enlightening and inspiring your colleagues, students, and most importantly, the communities at large. Finally, may this occasion be a moment of happiness and celebration to your family and colleagues. Kepada seluruh anggota keluarga saudara yang berbahagia pada hari ini, Dr. Manara dan saya menyampaikan penghargaan kami. Semuanya telah memberikan dukungan moral dan menghanturkan doa dan mengantar saudara ke pencapaian gelar akademik tertinggi. Selamat berbahagia bersama seluruh keluarga pada hari ini. We would also like to share our happiness with the officials from Tandri Abeng University, your wife, Dr. Dinar Ajeng Kristianti, daughters, parents, all of whom are present today, I believe. They must be proud of your accomplishment. Dr. Akhmad Hairul Umam, we wish you best of luck for your future contributions to the field of applied English linguistics. Thank you.
Dr. Akhmad Hairul Umam. Let me also, on behalf of the examiners, offer you our heartfelt congratulations with your academic achievement. I now invite you to say a few words to the assembly.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah, thank God, finally I'm done with the super duper 5 years. Yeah, with the super duper processes of my doctorate in applied linguistics. It has long ride and I made it. Thank to Allah. Let me express my gratitude for the people behind of this achievement. First, my promoter and co-promoter, Professor Dr. Setiono Sugiharto, M.Hum, and Ibu Christine Manara, Ph.D., for guiding me, helping me, teaching me. You guided me like a GPS for my brain. Yeah. You know, when you are lost on the road trip, the GPS will tell you turn left, turn right. So this is the good example to describe the goodness of my promoter and co-promoter to exit peacefully and happily from this university. Thank you so much. Second, my examiners, Professor Joseph Ernest Mambu, Ph.D., Professor Bahren Umar Siregar, Ph.D., who participate remotely from Medan, and Dr. Ana Marietta da Silva M.Hum. Thank you so much for your critical insight, very tough question, and frankly speaking, I enjoy being examined by the examiners from the first, second, the third until now. So you meet me like I was on a game show. Yeah. However, not me the champion, but the examiners for this parallel session of the academic game show. Of course, to the Dean, Faculty of Education and Languages, the lecturers and the staff, I do appreciate for excellent service that I got from this university, and also Pak Cecep, the superman of the staff at doctoral program. He is always available and ready to serve any inquiries from LTBI student. I do appreciate for their excellent service that I receive. Yeah, I see my classmate represented by Ibu Eli, Ibu Ati, and Ibu Siana. Thank you so much for being part of this academic journey. I just realized taking doctoral program is like a roller coaster, sometime up, sometime down. And sometimes we are in loop-de-loop and we do not know how to move on. Due to our stupidity and confusion as a student, this is the reality that I feel it. Yeah, I know that my colleague, they are on the track, just waiting the right time from Pak Cetep, yeah, for the coming schedule for your public defense. Yeah. Of course, important people from Tandri Abeng University, respected former Vice Rector Bapak Dr. Haji Sugiharto Sutomo. Thank you very much for coming and managing your time. He is the first person who have a big care and passion toward my growth, including my study and career. I do appreciate for him. For me, he is beyond my boss. Yeah. When I was proposed that I'm going to marry, he decided, okay, Mas Umam, when? I will provide a car and you provide driver. And he also give a speech on behalf of my family during the wedding ceremony. We will never forget, Pak Sugi, your kindness, myself, my wife, Dinar, and Afkar, Askar, and Aira. The Vice Rector from Tandri Abeng University, Bapak Kiai Haji Ph.D. SMM, thank you so much. The Dean of Education, Dean of Management and Leadership, Dr. Didip Diandra MBA, sitting behind. All the lecturers and my colleague, the Head of Human Resource Development, Dr. Nati Eka Putri, thank you so much, Ibu. Others, Pak Saiful, Pak Femi, Bu Astri, Bu Monik, Pak Darul, Pak Kiki, Pak Aryo, and others that I can't mention by one. I do appreciate, including my junior from EMM Ciputat, Muhammadiyah Student Association, from student from Tandri Abeng University, represented by the president. We are very honored, attended by the president, Student Union of Tandri Abeng University, Zahra, and also the head of SEMA, yeah, Senat Mahasiswa. I forgot his name. Iman sah. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. My mom, who came along from far away from Madura, where Pak Mahfud come from. Yeah, we are coming from the same island with him. Suppose my dad also here watching my happiness, I do believe we cannot reject God has a plan. He is already in the heaven observing our happiness today. My brother, Dr. Ali Wafa, with his family, my sister, Faidatun, my parent-in-law, Bapak Sutarno and Fuji Lustari. Last but not least, my lovely life partner, Dr. Dinar Ajeng Kristianti M.Com. She is the one keep telling me every night when your study will end. I just responded diplomatically, dear, just wait the right time. Today is the right time for me to exit from this university peacefully. My lovely children, Afkar, Aska, and Aira, I do appreciate your coming in my family, strengthen my spirit how to be tough student and tough lecturer, as a father as well. And for those people who support and not able to manage their coming, but sending their prayer to me, I do appreciate and very thankful. In the name of Allah, may God bless them. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, mari kita berikan tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk Dr. Akhmad Hairul Umam. Hadirin yang kami muliakan, sidang ujian promosi telah selesai. Dekan, kami persilakan untuk menutup acara sidang hari ini.
Ladies and gentlemen, this doctoral degree ceremony has come to an end, and I therefore declare the assembly closed.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, Dekan, para penguji, promotor, dan kopromotor akan berfoto bersama dan memberi ucapan selamat kepada Dr. Akhmad Hairul Umam dan keluarga sebelum meninggalkan ruang sidang ini. Kami persilahkan untuk maju ke depan.
Sebelum kami maju, izinkan kami atas nama Fakultas Pendidikan dan Bahasa, Program Doktor Linguistics Terapan, Unika Atmajaya, menghaturkan terima kasih untuk kerjasama yang baik dari Dr. Umam dan juga menghaturkan selamat yang luar biasa kepada institusi Tanri Bank. Semoga semua yang dicapai oleh Dr. Umam akan menjadi barokah untuk pendidikan Indonesia kita. Selamat sekali lagi kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga izinkan kami menyampaikan selamat yang luar biasa kepada Ibu dari Dr. Umam dan semua keluarga dan juga family. Semoga juga ini menjadi berkah yang besar untuk keluarga. Terima kasih sekali lagi.
Hadirin yang berbahagia, sidang promosi hari ini telah selesai. Kami menyediakan santapan makan siang yang sudah kami persiapkan jauh-jauh hari khusus untuk hari ini. Silakan bagi para hadirin, boleh dipersilahkan untuk menyantap hidangan yang ada di luar. Terima kasih. Tuhan memberkati kita semua.